By the middle of the 21st century, organ failure had become a worldwide epidemic. But GeneCo was there to satisfy the demand for organ replacements.
Enjoy GeneCo's day and nighttime formula.
The problem is, if you miss a payment, GeneCo sends out the Repo man. And when he finds you, your time is up.
Collect on the Handelman account at once. This payment is past due.
Everybody, oh yeah. Stand up. People. Woo! Everybody.
Look what I've become. It's me she must escape. I'm only living out a lie. I'm the monster. I'm the villain. What perfection? What precision? Unscathed organs might deliver repossession.
Welcome to They Called Us a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Called Us a Movie, and find us on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCDAM Pod. We are also now a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation, and you could find them at gvnation.com. Welcome back to They Called Us a Movie. This is Anthony Del Vecchio, and with me as always is Dan Aquino and Mark Meyer. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, friends.
Hello. I am just excited to hear this episode, so no bit at the beginning. Let's just get to it.
I think Dan seemed very sad.
Oh, no, not sad. Well, it's a mixture of emotions, I guess.
It's
There's
forlorn. Would that be?
Yeah, that's not a bad one. We haven't used that in a while, if ever, really.
Super mellow today. Mellow Dan. But we do have a guest this week. He's a friend of the show. He shows up on Game Vault podcast all the time. So welcome to the show, Jonathan. Jonathan,
hello.
Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Dan, I'm so sorry that I didn't realize that you hated music so much. And so I'm really sorry I subjected you to this.
Well,
Yeah.
I think there's a caveat to that. I like good music, if that's what you're getting at.
Okay, so we're just going to start this fighting?
I'm coming out guns blazing, man. Guns.
All right.
I was thinking to myself today, kind of prepping myself for the podcast, knowing you were going to be on it. I was like, all right, I need to figure out a way to talk about this where Jonathan doesn't come away from the podcast hating me and thinking
No.
I'm a big jerk.
So after Dan mentioned that he didn't really like this movie. He used stronger words than that, but he mentioned that, and then the first thing that I thought of is all of the sessions I ran of the Abney Park tabletop role-playing game when I was in college and after college. Abney Park is a steampunk band, and they released a tabletop role-playing game where you play as time-traveling steampunk pirates. And I think that's helps give some context as to why I picked this movie and why I have a lot of fondness for it. But that is absolutely not for everybody.
I would watch
niche.
that movie. I would watch that movie, Jonathan. Why didn't we watch that?
It's not a movie, just a band, and I guess a role-playing game book.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here, though. Costs. Every week we talk about what we've watched this week. So, Jonathan, why don't you start it off? Have you watched anything this week?
No, I don't watch TV or movies. However, I want to talk about something that I have not seen.
Hell yeah,
So-
Jonathan.
So, recently I was listening to people talk about, listening to something, and people mentioned Edge of Tomorrow, which is I've seen all the posters and stuff like that for it, and the slogans "Live, Die, Repeat" and whatever, but I've never seen the movie. The reason I want to talk about this is because they were talking about it and they mentioned, oh yeah, and it's based on a graphic novel, and I thought that's weird. I have no idea what graphic novel it could be based on. And they said, All You Need Is Kill, which I have read. I read it last year, completely unaware that it had ever been adapted into anything or had any cultural significance whatsoever. It was just I was looking at a list of comics and it was near the top because it starts with an A. So it was fine. The graphic novel is fine. I generally liked it, but I have a question about this.
Okay.
Does the movie Edge of Tomorrow have multiple scenes about how important it is to grind your own coffee beans in the morning?
That is a detail that I do not remember from the movie, but it's been quite some time since I've seen it.
If you have the answer, you can tweet us at TCTampod on Twitter.
It's not in the movie.
Okay.
It's not in the movie.
That's like a very important plot point and the climax of the whole graphic novel. So I have no idea what this movie is about, despite the fact that I read the book.
Gotcha. The most memorable thing I remember is a very sweaty Emily Blunt doing push-ups. That scene seems to happen like several times.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that's all I remember from that movie. And then Tom Cruise like getting killed several times. That's it. But so you say it's a terrible adaptation because the coffee grounds, as far as we know, as far as we remember, does not play an important role. So F+, right?
Sure.
Failed miserably.
All right. Dan, what about you? What did you watch this week? Anything?
I did, yes. I watched 2 movies, and I guess we'll piggyback off of Jonathan's Edge of Tomorrow with I saw Top Gun, Maverick.
Okay.
Really good. I enjoyed it. But then Twitter ruined it because everyone just kept saying it's propaganda. It's propaganda. Like, okay, but I can still enjoy it.
How they made it? Yeah, you mean how they made it really easy to know that the fictional bad country was Iran?
I think they left it. They left it anonymous. I think it was pretty. They never said who it was, and it was almost like a mixture of Russia and Iran. So I don't know who it is. They never say who it is. But yeah, I think what I really enjoyed about the movie so much is like just the jets. The jets are pretty cool, man. The
Let's go
stuff that they
vroom.
could do with those. What's that?
Jets go vroom.
Jets go vroom. That was gonna be my review of it on Twitter. Jets go vroom. No, like the stuff they do, like they were the real stars of the movie. Honestly, like these things are going Mach 8, and then they just stop on a dime, and they could go up, down, wherever. They do some pretty insane stunts. So I thought it was better than it had any business being, really. And then I had a surprise movie that I loved. This might be one of my favorite movies of the year. Is Hustle with Adam Sandler.
Okay.
Have you guys seen this movie?
No.
No, Dan. But how does it like being officially a Philadelphian? For like,
Oh God! No, like they barely really do anything with Philadelphia, so I was able to stomach it. Well, no, they do a good job of like saying how the people there are very rational and understanding, and it's the complete opposite that they show. But I had a reason to watch this. I wasn't going to watch it, but I have a family member in that movie, and I was looking out for them. And yeah, even though I'm not a big basketball fan, this movie had a lot of heart in it. And I kept thinking how we've always had the conversation around on this podcast, Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, and how time has just passed those guys by. But Sandler seems to be an anomaly because he'll make bad movies, like objectively bad movies. But then every now and then he'll let you know that he can act, and he's actually pretty good at it.
Yeah,
and he's confusing. He should be studied.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think I think the main difference between good and bad Adam Sandler is whether he wrote or directed the movie.
Well, he doesn't write or direct his movies, but
Well,
he
you know what
produces.
he
He produces them. The Happy Madison
Yeah.
label on the shitty movies.
This was produced by Happy Madison, this movie.
Well, there you go. This is
Oh,
the
wow.
anomaly to end all anomalies. But
There
like
you-
people say that he's a
exactly.
good actor in movies like Uncut Gems, which he is not a Happy Madison production. And like Punch Drunk Glove was his Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Some people even say Reign Over Me. I guess some people give pass to him being a good actor in Click. They haven't seen the scene in the parking lot, I guess. Because that is not a good scene.
He doesn't make, you know what it is? He's not making any goofy noises in this movie, and that's when it's serious Sandler. You don't get the goofy voices, and none of his buddies in this movie. So it's like, all right, I need to put my working shoes on.
Gotcha. I don't really know much about this movie. I got to look into it and see, who wrote, directed it. I'd be interested to see kind of the behind the scenes stuff of that. So Dan had a week of where he's came out of it pro Adam Sandler and pro military industrial complex. Pretty good
Guys,
week. For you.
I signed up for the Navy, so this is my last podcast.
There you go. Well, we'll see you in 4 years, right?
Yeah, I'll be in the sky, so I'll wave at you guys while I fly over.
Is the theme song for Maverick Eva Net Niage?
No, it's not. No, but they do play Highway to the Danger Zone once, and
Obviously.
only once. Yeah, only once though, and because they don't overdo it, which is good. I was very happy.
Okay, Mark, what did you not watch? What did you think about watching this week?
I did not watch Top Gun Maverick
this
week, even though it's very much a movie I probably should have seen by now. But yeah, I do have a funny story that does not involve me. That I'll share, and then we can move on to your movies.
Was it somebody else that went to see a movie?
Yes.
I have a friend who went and saw this one movie.
No, this is actually funny. It's not me being doing the bit for this, but my sister took her family to see the new Jurassic Park movie.
Okay.
And my brother-in-law accidentally bought tickets to the Spanish version of it.
Nice.
So I don't know if she's too embarrassed to admit to me, but she did not let me know if it was dubbed in Spanish and like subtitled in English or vice versa. But I'm going to assume it's the dubbed part if she's not telling me.
Did she come out of the theater speaking full Spanish?
No.
Oh, that would have been a great ending to that story.
Yeah, they went all the way to Wilmington, Delaware, and ended up seeing Jurassic Park in Spanish, in some form of Spanish.
Is that the closest theater to them?
No, I have no idea why they went to Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like there are multiple mistakes here.
Yes. Yeah, we have 3 theaters that are much closer.
Yeah. It's not even like they went to Delaware because it's an independent movie.
No.
It's the only one playing this movie.
And it's not even like an independent theater. It's a Regal. It just made me laugh when she said, yeah, so she was like, yeah, I saw Jurassic Park. And I was like, oh, how was it? She was like, well, it was in Espanol. And I was just like, oh, Jesus.
So she did pick up some Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Okay. I take that back.
There you go. All right. Is that it?
That's all I had.
Yeah, that's all you got. As for me, I only watched one movie this week. I watched, because it came out on Prime, I watched No Time to Die, the James Bond film.
Ooh.
It's officially on Amazon Prime. If you haven't watched it, I suggest watching it. I enjoyed it. It's a pretty good conclusion to the Daniel Craig era Bond.
Yep.
I put a third among his Bond films.
Yeah.
Quantum of Solace, I have no memory of that movie.
Yeah, there's only one part of that movie I remember, and it's the most like savage thing Bond has ever done.
Yeah, No Time to Die, very good. It's like almost a cameo from Ana de Armas. She's in one scene. She's good in it.
She's fantastic in it.
Obviously she's got a face for the screen, and that's for sure. And also that Léa Seydoux, I think that's how you pronounce her name.
Yeah,
she's got some face too. She's a good-looking woman. I don't want to. That's like my hot take for this week: is that she is not unattractive.
Yeah, they sort of did a good job with the quote-unquote Bond girls in the movie, especially in the errors have changed on the female actors in movies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my favorite part. I don't know if you noticed this watching it at home, but it the pace made me not realize it was as long as it was.
Yeah, I was it's almost 3 hours.
Yes.
I was dreading that. But no, it was quick. It felt like I watched it all in one sitting. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it a lot. I'm not a huge Bond fan. I think there are more bad Bond films than there are good ones, but this one I would consider a good one. And that's it. That's all I got this week. I still have not finished Stranger Things season 4 yet. Before we take a break, we do have some housekeeping. This episode is going to air Thursday, and then next week we are going to put up our June Movie of the Month Twitter poll. So this month we were going to do graduation/prom movies. It is the end of June. It's the end of school letting out. So we were going to find some shitty school movies, basically, movies that had either graduations or proms. So Mark wanted to do a specific movie. So we're kind of doing what we did with the Nicolas Cage month, where we're picking 3 movies that are probably too good for this podcast. Or at least 2 movies that are probably too good for this podcast. Yeah. So we decided that we're going to pit Can't Hardly Wait against 10 Things I Hate About You. And what's the third one?
She's All That? Is that the one?
She's All That. About? She's All That. The Freddie Prinze Jr. lead. Yeah, that's the one that I feel like is not too good for this podcast.
Mark's been dying to get Freddie Prinze Jr. on this podcast.
Mark is every chance he gets, he's got a Freddie Prinze Jr. waiting in the wings. And then I took Summer Catch away from him, so we had to try and figure it out. So
don't put it past Mark. He'll do it.
Yeah. Wait until you see my pick for the October poll.
Is it Scooby Doo?
Is it Scooby Doo or I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah. I'm gonna change it up on you. I'm gonna horror movies that do not include Freddie Prinze Jr. is gonna be the theme. But that's gonna check that out next week. We'll have that poll, and then on the 30th of June will be that episode. So check back, and that's it. Before we get into this week's movie, so we're gonna take a quick break, and you guys will listen to some ads, and we will be back in a second. And welcome back. Now it's time to get into this week's movie. And this week, Jonathan picked this movie. So, Jonathan, why don't you introduce this week's movie?
Yeah. So, I already gave a little bit of background on me and liking this movie, but there's 2 main reasons I wanted to suggest this to y'all. The first one is that I think that a good movie is one that succeeds at what it's trying to do. It doesn't have to have, like, quote unquote, good cinematography or writing or whatever. The important thing is that it succeeds at the thing that the creators are trying to accomplish. So this movie, like, I think there are many reasons that people would not like it. 1, it's an opera, which not everybody likes. 2, it's a very large amount of gore. And 3, this is also a very, very, like, this movie is very specific to a specific subculture in a specific time period. So I completely understand it not hitting. However, I think that it's obvious what the creators were trying to do and what they were wanting to make, and that this is exactly that. They obviously wanted to make a goth opera with a bunch of, like, fairly good actors, and, like, everybody just, it feels like every actor is really good at the part that they play, and the setting is exactly what they want. Everything appears exactly the way they intended it to be. And the things that seem goofy or campy or, like, cheesy are obviously intended to be that way. So it's sort of like a good, bad movie, but I don't think that's the best way to describe it. The second thing, and this ties in with what y'all said last week about Stone Cold, that you really like it, even though it's not a quote unquote good movie. Second thing is, I think, well, I guess, do you have any of you have any thoughts on that?
What you said, or
yeah.
I think it's an interesting idea of saying that if it's what the creators intended, then that's what makes it a good movie. I think that's an interesting idea. I think it's a little binary for how we usually look at things here. And I don't necessarily think that we get too into the weeds of, like, film criticism and stuff like that. We either say I did not like this movie or I did like this movie.
Yeah.
But I feel like a movie like could you apply that to say something that 100% is what the creators intended, like say Two Girls One Cup? That is 100% the best version of Two Girls One Cup and the exact idea of what those filmmakers set out to do. Does that idea extend to a video, we'll say, or a movie? It's a movie like that.
I guess I should have realized that that's a movie that's firmly in the like TC Tam wheelhouse. However, I have not seen that movie, and I do not ever plan to see that movie, so I can't speak to it specifically.
Okay.
Real quick, because Jonathan, you had mentioned that that idea before, and the first movie that sprang to my mind that we've covered here is what's the dog? The magical dog. I had it on the tip of my tongue.
The Wizard of Paws.
Wizard of Paws. So that movie accomplishes what it sets out to do. It turns a child into a dog, and it's a children's movie, and it's still awful. I think there needs to be so many. You have to combine these components, I think, for something to be, I guess, quote unquote, successful. But that's just my take on it, because that is an interesting idea where you set out to make this movie that's a rock opera, and they do. But I think you need a little bit more than just that. I think because that sets the bar too low. I think.
Sure. I think there are parts where I disagree with your assessment, especially. I don't think this movie I think in your text you said that this movie succeeds at what it does. I don't think it succeeds in a few places that I would expect a rock opera to succeed. I don't think the songs are particularly well written or performed. I'm not a songwriter, so I can't say why but they're not particularly catchy.
Specifically that's one of the things that's specific to it being an opera, is that all of the dialogue is sung. And one of the problems with that is that they're not like songs. And so, it's very rarely catchy. However, I do think the Zydrate song is catchy.
Is that when he's in the alleys with the prostitutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good song. I actually did kind of like that song.
And I would say, I saw Bill Moseley looks like he's not comfortable. I've never seen that guy less comfortable in a movie before. Like, I've seen him as a absolute wretch in movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and Has a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, where he has to do some ungodly things. And this guy, he looks so uncomfortable when he's singing.
I think he's the weakest of the Largos.
Sure. Yeah, I think Paul Sorvino is more comfortable, but a bad singer. Mm-hmm. Objectively bad, I think Paul Sorvino is. And obviously, the woman that plays Mag obviously is a phenomenal singer, being originating the role of Christine in Phantom of the Opera. I love me some goth Paris Hilton though.
Yeah.
I think what I could say about this is this movie definitely is one person's vision, which I appreciate for that. I think this is a more interesting watch than say, it's like a passion project. So we sometimes watch like these very cynical, mass marketed kind of comedies, and what we usually come around and say is like, it was boring. It wasn't very funny. It was just kind of boring and a waste of my time. Can't say that with this. It's a very unique movie. I think it's a guy's passion project, because he directed Saw 2, 3, and 4, and then was like, I want to make my rock opera now. He got $8.5 million to do it. So I will give him credit for, putting whatever it is that he envisioned on screen, but it just didn't 100% work for me. I think one of the problems with this is that it was shot in 2008, and from a technical standpoint, it's shot on looks like really low grade digital, and it was a really awkward time for digital film photography. So that's like not necessarily their fault, but like the the filters they put on it just kind of make that weird kind of Barbara Walters shine to everything, which I didn't love. But yeah, it was interesting. This was a movie that I had on my Netflix DVD like list when I was still getting DVDs from Netflix for a long time, and it just always kind of wound up getting pushed down the list. So I never actually watched this movie before this. But
Yeah.
Mark, what about you? You haven't really
Yeah. I was,
had a chance to
first
say
thing before I get into the movie, I find it funny that we've done so many movies here that when Dan said the movie with the magical dog, I legitimately could not think of which movie that we have watched that involved the magical dog.
We've got two.
Yeah.
Wizard of Paws and Love on a Leash, technically.
Yeah, and both of them could have fit the bill for what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And secondly, I agree for the most part. I think I'm somewhere between Ant and Jonathan here, in that I enjoyed the spectacle of it, and seeing that they got exactly what they wanted. When especially, I think they translate this from, it was written as a stage play at first.
Yeah, it did exist as a stage play for a bit.
Yeah. So it seems like they got to do what they wanted because a lot of it looked like would be sets on a stage, and it didn't really stand like, that part was great. I think the part where I'm a little more on Ant's side is with the music itself. I think while the opera part of singing all the lines and stuff like that, I think the mistake they made was they put people together whose voices didn't really like fit, or like they clashed a lot. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. And they tried to do a lot of singing over top of each other or harmonizing and stuff, and it just didn't fit. Specifically, Shiloh and Nathan.
Yeah, I want to really quick.
Yeah.
I want to take back the part where I said that all of the cast are good. I think some of the members of the cast are really good, and I think we'll talk about that when they come up and stuff like that. But not all of them. And yes, I think Anthony Head, Nathan is one of the weaker people.
Yeah, and it was just I wish, because at times when they did get the right couple people together, which was oddly enough Paris Hilton in the alley scene with the guy she was going back and forth with, fit together well. Like when they hit on those moments, I was really into it. I'm really enjoying what they were doing. But yeah, the times I got taken out of it was the clashing, and sometimes some people didn't know how to sing talk lines and stuff. And yeah, I felt that with a couple more, maybe just one or two, more people that like got that, the movie may have been better overall. But it gets my one stamp of approval on my side is that I rarely checked my phone while watching it. So I was engaged the entire time, which is always a thumbs up for the movies we watch for this podcast.
You guys are way too forgiving of this movie.
And I'll say right before Dan talks, 5 minutes in, even after hearing his comment, I was like, this is so not a Dan movie.
No, I don't think this should be an anyone movie, to be honest with you. And based off of the returns, it wasn't. Oh boy, there's two people who could sing well in this movie. Two people that belong in this type of movie. It's the grave robber and blind man.
Okay.
Everyone else, go away. Not good.
I felt like Anthony Head was in a different rock opera. There were times when he was singing, I was like, I think he thinks he's in Rent. And I thought he was the guy from Rent for a little bit. And then to juxtapose that against like Blind Mag singing her swan song at the end, because I think it's back to back, that he has a song and then she has a song, and it's like, this movie is a mess. Like it's very all over the place in terms of that aesthetic to it. Because I didn't think he was necessarily a bad singer. He just wasn't in the right movie.
And one more thing, Anthony, you touched on the how the movie was shot, and it had this. I didn't like the blue sheen it had to it, or like the really red sheen. So it was just one way or the other, and it was kind of hard to really focus on it. I think they really were trying to make the Repo Man kind of an iconic horror character, and I don't think they they succeeded in that, right? Because it's a weird looking character. I thought there was going to be more. Because why is there one Repo Man? Shouldn't it be Repo Men?
I mean, you get a lot of more work done. Definitely.
Sure.
There, I think it definitely seems like they're saying that there are multiple Repo Men. It's just that we only care about this specific one. Like the story is only about the specific one.
And you would think GeneCo would be able to afford at least two.
Right. They're the leading company in organ transplants and all that. So in 2056, the only way to get someone an organ is to take it from someone else.
No,
is that
so
what we're?
One of the things that's interesting to me about this movie is how it's just like not futuristic at all. Like most of the things in this movie are just things that were happening like 2 years after the movie came out. Like the opioid crisis was happening like at this time. And this movie is about that. Like it's just literally what was happening, that doctors overprescribed painkillers for surgeries and they were very expensive medications. And so the pharmaceutical companies made a lot of money. And so they wanted to keep going, but it's illegal drugs. And so there's a lot of crackdown. And yeah, it's just what's in the movie. And like, they didn't change anything. It's not a what if, or like an exaggerated scenario. It's just the thing that was happening. But part of that is, I don't think it's that they, with the organ transplants, I started when I was watching it this time, I noticed in the beginning, they say that like there's an epidemic of organ failures, but outside of the intro, that doesn't really come up. And other than that, it seems like it's just, again, the thing that happened in American healthcare at the time, where transplants are really expensive and the medication to that you need after you have a transplant is really expensive. And so lots of people have to get payment plans. If they can't pay, then in the movie, the company will kill you and take your organs.
Well, also the Repo Man doesn't know what an organ is apparently, because he rips out some dude's spine.
Well, I mean, I guess they could do spine transplants, but I think it's
2056. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
Well, my point is, why not just they can't grow an organ?
Well, I mean, GeneCo's not.
Yeah,
it's just interesting.
The thing that
right?
happens. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say we're doing that now. Like we're growing organs, so you'd think that in 2056 they'd have some sort of. But you're right, because it's not really futuristic there. It's more steampunk.
It's not GeneCo's business model.
So what I mean is that what happens in the real world is that transplant medication is really expensive. If you can't pay for it, then you stop getting transplant medication. Your body rejects your organs, you die, and you're likely an organ donor because you know that transplants are really important. So the hospital takes your organs and then gives them to somebody else, charges a large amount of money for them, and they have payment plans. And so that's the thing, is that it's not just that they're repossessing the one organ that you had transplanted in the movie. It's not that they're just repossessing the one organ that you got transplanted. It's that they're taking all of your organs. So they give you a kidney, and then if you can't pay, then they get like your liver, your heart, your kidneys, your spine, whatever. That
We
they can
never
then
see
sell to
anyone
somebody
working
else.
in this movie. We don't know. Does anyone work? We have no idea if there's like a job market in this world.
We see the Repo Man working.
That's it. Yeah, he's just he's just taking everybody's spines and large intestines.
His business is booming for him. I will say that there are a couple of interesting moments that I kind of liked towards the ends. I thought the finale of Blind Mag was interesting.
Yeah.
How she made an exit. I thought that was interesting. And then the finale, I guess, when the Munchausen by proxy kind of comes up at not necessarily nowhere, but when that comes up,
yeah,
I think it was an interesting last 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think the last act is definitely the best part of the movie.
You know what I think would have been to me a little bit more interesting, or I think it might have flowed a little better with this movie, if you make the Repo Man, the guy from Buffy, right? What's his name? Anthony Head. If you make him the sole main character and you take away the daughter, I think the daughter you lift out and you have the Repo Man, maybe he's trying to get out of the repo business and you follow that journey instead of him and the daughter. Because essentially, I kind of checked out at some points because I was not feeling this movie. Paul Sorvino is trying to marry Shiloh, correct?
No.
No.
Okay, so what is he getting Shiloh for?
He wants her to be his heir, essentially, because he thinks his three children are useless, and he wants to leave gene code to her. Sort of like he feels like that's the daughter he was supposed to have with Marnie, more or less, because
Okay,
Nathan
that was
stole Marnie from him. So I guess he feels some attachment to Shiloh as Marnie, the last, remaining part of Marnie that's still alive. So he takes a liking to her in terms of a father-daughter relationship, although they probably could have expanded on that a little bit. And his plan at the end is to have her take over GeneCo.
Okay. Yeah, I thought for some reason I thought there was something in the newspaper about him marrying an underage girl, but maybe that was just a different headline. Yeah. So I mean, regardless, I think the Repo Man to me is a better character to follow because maybe like he's just trying to get out of it, or then you could have him killing the whole family, the GeneCo family, the Largo family. I would like to see him kill Paul Sorvino. I think that would be
an extremely different movie.
Yeah. But you could keep the rock opera part.
I think the plot here kind of uses tropes from operas here, so that's probably part of it, of why, because I feel like everybody dies at the end of an opera and everything is revealed of who's been fooling who and all that kind of stuff. I'm not huge into opera, but I feel like that's a thing.
So you guys were saying that in an opera, because like Les Mis, they sing everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even when they're talking, they're sing talking. But here they kind of go back and forth because sometimes, most of the time, they're singing.
I think every piece of dialogue is sung in this.
Is it? I thought there was a few times where they were kind of there. Well, maybe I mistook it for just yelling.
I think you're right that there's like a couple very short parts where they just talk, but a lot of the dialogue is just sung.
Okay. I know Bill Moseley yells at people a lot.
Yeah, I think it is set to a backing like an underscore though.
Yeah,
it was just really difficult to follow at times with that.
I think the interesting thing I read on this was in the trivia is the confidence the filmmaker had with it being a passion project, and understand that this movie is like the middle chapter of a trilogy he wrote.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was gonna, if this made money, he was going to release the first as like a prequel as the next movie to explain, I guess, Nathan, Marnie, Roddy. That was like Roddy.
Roddy is Paul Sorvino.
Yeah,
I don't think you need to explain anything, but I understand how you would do that.
Yeah,
I was just thinking with Jonathan, what you said earlier, you would be like the best demographic for a lot of these directors who don't make good movies, because to them they'd be like, I just need to kind of accomplish what I set out to do, and they're gonna love it. And I think that's it's almost like a sweet way of looking at movies, because a lot of people don't look at movies that way.
What I was trying to get at with that thing I said in the beginning is not that like I like every movie where the director does what they were intending to do, but instead it's that a lot of times I'll hear people say, oh yeah, I really like this movie, even though like it's not like a good movie and stuff. And then they're talking about like a comedy that's funny, and it's like, no, it's a good movie. If it's supposed to be funny and it is funny, then like that's good. That's what makes it good. It doesn't need to be a like high budget drama with spectacular effects.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing I was trying to get at with that.
I had that conversation a couple weeks ago. Someone I know mentioned Half Baked. I'm like, oh, that's a great movie. I'm like, I don't think it's a very good movie. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's funny. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good movie, but so maybe that's where they were coming from. Where like, oh no, it's supposed to be funny. It's a comedy. Doesn't have to be Oscar worthy, and you kind of go from there.
Yeah. I also find it funny that of a group of 4 people in a family singing in a movie, Paris Hilton may be the best singer.
Yeah, I guess we can mention this really briefly. So in this movie, Paris Hilton plays a spoiled rich heiress who's very superficial, and she does a really good job in that role.
Yeah, the role she was born to play.
I was trying to look up if Paris Hilton herself had any plastic surgery, and there were a number of articles from last year. Apparently, she gave an interview where she swore that she had absolutely never had any form of plastic surgery. And I don't think I really knew anything about her at the time. But the stuff I was reading said that like she started becoming famous for being famous when she was 19. And that's really fucked up that you're 19 years old and people are talking about how self-obsessed you are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And expecting you to be a major like celebrity despite you not necessarily wanting that and not having like done anything to try to do that. Yeah.
I would be lying if I say I wasn't one of those people in the early 2000s who were like, oh, she's just, for Paris Hilton, she's just famous because of the name and all that. But yeah, I think it's a good indication of how some people grow over time, right? Because now I saw her in Repo, the genetic opera. I was like, oh yeah, I remember Paris Hilton trying to get into acting. That's cool. And she wasn't terrible in this. I don't think she was a very good singer, but she wasn't the worst.
I agree that she's not a great singer, but she's not bad. And her character is supposed to be somebody who wants to be a great singer, even though she's like very much not. So I thought that it was a good casting choice that she is not a great singer.
So my question to you guys is, now we're talking about singers, who's the worst singer in this group? Who would you guys say?
Sorvino. I thought it was Paul Sorvino.
I think Bill Moseley, even though he doesn't really have any singing, he
doesn't do
his
much
line
singing.
deliveries are all just not great.
Yeah.
So Bill Moseley plays Luigi, and his thing is that he's angry. And I was watching him, and I was like, man, how is it that you couldn't find somebody to pull off being an angry man? You can't find somebody better to be an angry man, really, in a movie? He just needs to yell, and this guy is not good at that.
Yeah, not in this setting, I would say, because he's frightening in the Rob Zombie movies that he's in. And he does that well. He's not over the top. He's not loud. He's not loud like bombastic about it. But he is a scary character, I would say. But in here, he, like I said, he's uncomfortable. He's a fish out of water, really, when he's not supposed to be. And I think it really just comes down to he's like friends with the director. So he kind of like did him a favor, even despite the fact that he's kind of shoehorned into this.
I think it's bullshit that he doesn't have a Italian accent.
Speaking
but Pavi
of that,
does, right?
Yeah, speaking of that, I was going to say Pavi is fantastic.
He's definitely got a cool look to him.
Yeah, was he the guy with the face attached?
Yes.
He looks like the Joker, pretty much, right?
Right, the New 52 Joker.
Yeah, yeah. He skins his face off and then for some reason staples it back on.
Yes.
That Joker.
Yeah, he just really pulls off being extremely creepy.
Yeah,
that was an interesting look.
Yeah, I kind of wish this was just a vehicle for like a My Chemical Romance rock opera.
It would have fit perfectly because they were big in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
I think that would be the bigger budget version of this movie.
Sure, yeah, or like Brandon Urie as the Gravedigger, so it's a Panic at the Disco.
Yes,
because the opera feels like the opera feels like a Panic at the Disco music video.
They should have collaborated. It should have been almost like some vignettes, essentially.
Yeah, I'd watch that version, but I also watch this one. So
Danger Days is probably that, right? Did they make a movie of that, or is it just the album?
Anyway, yeah. I'm reaching my limit of my Panic at the Disco knowledge.
Oh, that's My Chemical Romance.
Oh, okay. Then I've reached my limit of My Chemical Romance. But Repo the Genetic Opera from 2008 is directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, director of Saw 2, 3, and 4, and Spiral 2, as well as a few other horror movies. It stars Paul Sorvino, Anthony Head, Alexa Penavega, Sarah Brightman, Paris Hilton, Bill Moseley, Kevin Ogilvy, Taryn Zadunik, and Sarah Power. IMDb score of 6.4 and a Rotten Tomato score of 40%. Budget $8.5 million. Box office $188,000 worldwide. Yeah, I don't think anybody expected this movie was going to make money, except for maybe Darren Lynn Bousman if he had plans for a trilogy.
Now, was this movie what you guys thought it was going to be when before watching it? Because I thought first of all, I didn't know it was a full-on opera. I just thought it was a catchy name. Like, oh, that name really pops out at you, the Genetic Opera. I kind of thought it was just going to be your typical slasher movie.
I feel like they never lie to you when they call something an opera.
That's a good point, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason to put that in there.
I've never been fooled by something being called an opera. And I'm just like, nah.
I have a fun story about this. So a couple of years ago, my mom sent me some 2 DVDs that she had left over. They were not movies that I cared about or anything like that. She was just cleaning out her house and she had movies and she thought, I'm going to send these 2 to Jonathan. I'm going to send these 3 to Anthony. My brother's named Anthony. And so we get these 2 movies in the mail and I was like, I think this is the non-musical version of Phantom of the Opera. And Jackie was like, that's ridiculous. Why they would never make a non-musical version of Phantom of the Opera. The thing people like about that is the songs. Why would you take the songs out? And one night I went to bed before her. And so she started watching it. And the next morning she was like, oh my God, it was a non-musical version of Phantom of the Opera. Why would you do that? Nobody wants that.
Wow, which one is that? That's not the most recent one, is it?
No, it's from the 90s.
Okay, not the 2004 one with Gerard Butler, right?
I don't know.
No, that's a musical romantic drama film.
I was going to say we should go to our Gerard Butler expert to see.
Yeah.
They're singing in that one.
Anyway, so there is one time that a movie is labeled as an opera, and it is not that. At least that I'm aware of.
All right. Do you guys want to get into plot?
Let's do it.
Yeah,
yes, Dan. The answer is yes.
We don't have
Dan.
to. Yes. We don't have to sing it, do we?
Oh, that would have been a good idea for an episode. But
Jen wanted me to sing my review.
Jen's got a lot of great ideas for a person that does not want to show up on this podcast.
She has anything that I say that is even remotely funny is basically from Jen's mouth. It's all Jen. And yeah, she wants none of the fame. She's my ghostwriter.
Dan, what do you got for us this week?
Gonna give a quick shout out to our friends Tia and Brittany and their podcast, The Top 10 with Tia. Go follow them on Twitter at TC_start and at IttyBittyBrit. You could also find their podcast at geekvibesnation.com.
Okay, great. And we're going to take a quick break, and you guys will listen to some ads from friends of the podcast, and we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Steve.
And this is Adam.
And we're part of the Hop Nation USA podcast,
Pittsburgh's #3 craft beer podcast.
Join us every Friday for new beer reviews.
We'll talk about the news, history, and homebrewing.
Plus, we'll sit down with the best brewers and industry personalities that'll have us.
So whether you're a casual drinker, a hazy boy hophead,
or even if you're a whale hunting cellar hoarder,
just search Hop Nation USA on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher and join the nation.
Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. It's me, George, from the best little horror house in Philly, the show where we talk about the best horror movie ever made, according to our guest at least. We've talked about groundbreaking classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Alien, but we've also got a lot of great ones coming up, including some very fun guests like Len Kabaczynski of Swamp Zombies and Red Letter Media fame, Caroline Williams, the star of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and Chase Williamson from John Dies at the End. So make sure you're subscribed to the best little horror house in Philly, and I'll see you boils and ghouls over there.
And welcome back. Now it's time to get into the plot for Repo, the Genetic Opera. We open on a comic panel opening, giving us a brief explanation of the world around us. It's the future. There's an epidemic of organ failures. Millions die, causing chaos. Through that, GeneCo steps in, making the upfront cost of transplants quote-unquote affordable with payment plans. Barati Largo successfully lobbies Congress to be able to repossess transplanted organs from those that are unable to pay. There's also some sort of painkiller called Zydrate, which is expensive and addictive, which also has caused a black market knockoff to be created by harvesting Zydrate from dead bodies, which they don't really go into extreme detail about why they could get it from dead bodies, but it's just there. And now surgery is also a fashion statement, which is kind of like Crimes of the Future, the Cronenberg movie I saw last week. But anyway, Roddy Largo, Paul Sorvino, also has a bunch of shitty kids. And there's a repo man specifically sent in to extract the organs. I think my notes say a team of repo men. So this is answering your question before, Dan, specifically sent in to extract the organs. Because I think they do set up that there are multiples.
Now, like again, like when I was saying you should follow the main character should have just been the repo man, where he has to kind of go up against his fellow repo men to get to Paul Sorvino.
You want this to be a superhero movie, Dan?
At the very least, The Raid.
The Raid's a good movie, though.
We should just watch The Raid.
Okay,
guys, why don't we just let's scrap this podcast and go watch The Raid?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's comic panels here, Dan. That didn't, wet your whistle.
No, that actually annoyed the fuck out of me because the first time they show it is interesting. The third and fourth time they show it, kind of annoying.
But wouldn't it be weird to only have it just once?
No, I'd rather just like you have it the one time, it sets everything up, and then you have the movie. That's it. Gotcha. I don't need to keep going back. It's not a comic book. I feel like that only works well in comic book format.
Okay. I guess it was just a way to give you information in a short amount of time.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good method for giving you plot exposition, that you don't have the awkward stuff of characters telling each other things that they both already know and whatever. But
Dan says no.
Because Dan hates comic books. Got it.
That's right.
Well, he hates music. Mark hates art, which also includes music. So
and comic books.
And obviously he doesn't watch movies, so we know where he stands on that. But yeah.
I just do this for the paycheck. That's why I did it.
Mark is staunchly in the camp that video games aren't art, so he can like them.
Yeah.
Well, I feel bad for Mark because they were just, I think they were just categorized as art.
Yeah, give me a game that's more dewy and less talky. That's what I would say.
He can't hold that skip button any harder when it gets to those cinematics.
Soundtrack, no thank you.
Just music off all the way down.
Mark goes right to the main menu, switches off everything.
Once the comic panels end, we're reminded that this is a rock opera as a Chris Angel, mind freak looking dude talks to us about the Repo Men. As we watch the Repo Men chase down a woman and cut her heart out. Then our title screen gives way to some 2008 era CG as we sweep over the city that is looked down on by the GeneCo Tower. The GeneCo headquarters, two women with shotguns and sunglasses hand Roddy a dossier that shows pictures of his kids in precarious situations. And his doctor comes in to tell Roddy that he has terminal cancer, so one of the women in sunglasses shoots the doctor in the head for his troubles. Then Roddy goes...
That's kind of the wrong thing to do, right? If someone's dying, you kind of want the doctor to help,
I don't know how to... Yeah, that's supposed to be an indication to us that he is a bad guy.
Yeah, well, he's a billionaire. We know he's a bad guy.
That's true, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess when you have terminal cancer, it's like, well, nothing you could do, so might as well shoot my doctor, as people think.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a very emotional time for Roddy Largo. I don't know. Probably not thinking clearly. Then Roddy goes into the elevator with his female guards, and Paul Sorvino sort of sings about who would inherit the company.
Yeah, so during the break, I listened to this part again, and from this song, I see what you guys are talking about Paul Sorvino being a bad singer. I think this is a really bad first impression. I think his songs in the end of the movie are much better, but just like the way he does this one is not good.
Yeah. I think he gives the bravado of like he's a good singer, and he knows what opera is supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's particularly accomplished at doing so.
Sure.
Meanwhile, a goth girl sits down in a mausoleum only to immediately stand up to go chase some sort of glowing flying scorpion. I don't remember this but it happens, I guess. Truth be told, I watched this movie in 3 30-minute increments over the span of 3
brutal.
days.
You got to just power through it.
Meanwhile, Chris Angel Mind Freak pulls a body out of its grave to extract the counterfeit Zydrate, and he sings about it. And then he screams, which he alerts the guards at the cemetery because grave robbing is even more illegal, seeing as how this is now cutting into Gene Co's profits. Chris Angel and the goth girl hide in a mausoleum so Chris Angel could extract more Zydrate, but then he gets to the part where he screams at the same part of the song, which then alerts the guards once again.
I do like how when he goes into the one area, his face is like he hit the jackpot when he sees the mass grave of bodies.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Just like, ooh, baby.
When you die, I'm sorry, when you die, aren't you embalmed?
Not in 2056.
Oh, so are we saying that? Right, because they pretty much, that renders everything useless inside you, correct? I've never died before, so I don't know.
I mean, I don't know what Zydrate is. They never explain what they're extracting to make counterfeit Zydrate.
I don't think it matters that they get it from dead bodies other than the fact that they get to set scenes in graveyards like this.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is a setting that they want to use.
Yeah. I feel like it was like adrenochrome, the fake thing from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, where it's from someone's adrenal gland.
It's what was it in BioShock?
Oh, Adam.
This is a little bit like Adam, I guess, but that's like genetic shit, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's important.
Then Roddy, who's watching this all on closed circuit television, tells the guards to let them go, and the goth girl faints. She wakes up in her room, and we realize her goth hair is actually a wig, and her dad comes in to tell her that he can't stand it if he were to ever lose her, because he lost her mother to a blood disorder that this goth girl, Shiloh, inherited. So once her dad leaves, Shiloh sings about how she wants to be able to go outside and not be trapped in her room. So this is basically Rapunzel's type of story. Then we backtrack to Shiloh's dad's story, told once again in comic panels, and how he met Marnie, Shiloh's mom. When she was pregnant, Marnie got sick, and Nathan thought he had invented a cure for her, but he literally invented the exact opposite and winds up killing her with his supposed cure.
Yeah, I think the one thing they do as this movie goes along, and maybe I appreciate it and it's not accurate, but I like how they slowly, like in terms of the story-wise, peeled back layers of the story on there. Like when they did each person's like little comic panel, it was basically around the same situation, but each time you got one, you got like a little bit more of what was going on in there. And I thought that was an interesting way. Again, it's a lot better than people, as Jonathan said, talking to each other about things they actually already know. I thought it was a nice, interesting way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he manages to cut Shiloh out before the mother dies. So then Nathan sings about how much he misses Marnie, and now Shiloh is the only thing that he has in the world, and he can't let her leave. He then moves his fireplace to reveal a hidden laboratory. I'm going to call it laboratory, where he does experiments, we assume. And he announces himself as Repo, a legal assassin. And back at Gene Co., the Largo kids get their introduction song. It's like Succession, but with Bill Moseley, one half of Skinny Puppy, and Paris Hilton. Moseley is Luigi, who's the oldest and sort of the id of the group. The song just deals with he just sees holes and wants to fuck them. As I mentioned, I've seen Bill Moseley be heinous characters in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Devil's Rejects, Houses of 1,000 Corpses, and I've never seen him more uncomfortable than he looks when he's singing in this movie. Paris Hilton.
I think he puts a dead person's face on another person in Devil's Rejects, and somehow he comes off as more insane in this.
Yeah. Paris Hilton is Amber Sweet, and 100% would do this version of Paris Hilton without remorse. That's in my notes. All right.
wait.
Okay.
Are you saying you would
ask me?
I just want to make sure I heard that correctly. Anthony, you said you would do this version of Paris Hilton without remorse?
Yes, I did.
That's an interesting thing. I don't think you've ever written anything like that in your notes.
That's why I'm very surprised to read it.
Were you like lucid when you did this?
It was probably Sunday, so I probably had a few drinks.
Oh man, the real Anthony's coming out.
I know. Kevin Ogilvy plays Pavi, the brother that has decided wearing someone's face is a fashion statement. And Amber has about 10 seconds of screen time in which she punches Luigi in the dick, then leaves, leaving Luigi and Pavi to sing about how their dad is going to leave the company to them. So it's exactly like Succession. we're back with Amber, who's watching TV when she gets a call on her smartwatch from Roddy telling her to meet him at her mother's tomb. And then we get more comic panels as we learn Roddy's story. He was in love with Marnie before she met Nathan, and he was always jealous. So when she got sick and Nathan was trying to find a cure, he paid someone to put poison in his mixture and wound up killing Marnie on purpose. Roddy meets with Shiloh and has his guards force her into his limo and then tells her that he'd like to bring her to I think this is the Italian fair, because I think my notes are wrong. Meanwhile, Nathan is in his laboratory repossessing organs from his latest victim, singing about how thankless his job is and also using his victim like a puppet. We then go to Sanitarium Square, where they're having an Italian Renaissance festival, and we meet up with the Largo kids again, where Poppy is getting a new face put on. Luigi stabs a guy over bad espresso, and Amber argues with Blind Mag, the diva of the genetic opera, about who would replace her in the opera when Mag decides to leave. Amber wants it to be her, and Blind Mag is the voice of Jean Co., played by Sarah Brightman, opera singer, the original Catherine in Broadway's Phantom of the Opera, and the ex-wife of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Roddy shows up with Shiloh and tells all his kids to scram, and then introduces Shiloh to Blind Mag, another comic strip, as we learn Blind Mag's story. 17 years ago, she was best friends with Marnie, back when Marnie was dating Roddy. Mag was blind, and Roddy worked it out to give Mag the ability to see, but in return, she'd basically be the indentured servant of Jean Co. We cut back to the fair as Roddy and Mag cut the ribbon on the opera, and Shiloh gets pushed into some sort of surgery tent. Meanwhile, Nathan goes out to repossess another organ from someone with a past due account, and he and Shiloh get messages on their smartwatches that tell them it's time for Shiloh to take her medicine. So they both sing about how whether or not Nathan needs to come home, with Shiloh telling him she's fine. They both hang up, and then Chris Angel Mindfreak comes into the tent that Shiloh is in and ushers her out, telling her to come with him. Meanwhile, Roddy gets interviewed by someone and asks him their secrets, so Roddy introduces his daughter Amber to talk about Zydrate, and she winds up being a no-show. So then we get another comic strip. Interstitial gives us some more information regarding Amber and a possible addiction to surgeries or street Zydrate. Chris Angel Mindfreak takes Shiloh to the streets, and they run into a bunch of prostitutes that are also addicted to street Zydrate. Chris Angel sings about how those that are into the surgeries use Zydrate to numb the pain, and then Amber Sweet shows up to get her fix of Zydrate ahead of her next surgery. Chris Angel then tells us about the fine print of Blind Mag's contract, that if she was to leave Jean Co., Roddy could repossess her eyes. Shiloh?
There's one thing I'm sorry. There's one thing about this movie. They don't really show a whole lot of the genetic modifications. I think they like Blind Mag has those eyes that can kind of do the hologram.
Mm-hmm.
And the one son is doing the whole Joker face thing. But is there any other like big ones? I think like someone wears like a gas mask, but I don't know if that's a modification really.
No,
I don't remember seeing anything.
Was that Shiloh? Wasn't Shiloh wearing the gas mask because she has the blood disorder, quote unquote?
Yeah. So there's not a whole lot, right?
I agree that there's no like transhumanism stuff in this really. It seems like all of the organs people get are all of the organs people get are like normal organs to replace ones that are failing, or it's just normal cosmetic surgery stuff.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen some more liberties taken. Maybe I don't know what would have been interesting in this time period. I don't know, maybe like an arm or half the face is something different. Hey, just to take some liberties with it, have some fun with it.
Well, that's more like the Cronenberg movie you were talking about, right?
Yeah, definitely. Where they get like just like cut up their own faces for some reason, just becomes a fashion statement, and then people are giving themselves organs that can digest plastic. Because that was that movie. I feel like I like this movie more. But yeah, I feel like the whole hologram eye thing was kind of like out of place because they don't really do it again. They probably could have lifted it right out of this movie, and this movie would be exactly the same.
Yeah, they use it once or twice, right? They show it off.
I feel like it's just when she goes to Shiloh's house, right?
Yeah. Maybe it was a budgetary thing. Like we can't really show too much. Like Jonathan was saying, it's really just stuff that it's inside you. They don't really show you much.
Yeah, I mean, it feels at first I thought it seems like a stylistic choice that they don't want to do. They want it to be about like people are dying because of normal organ transplants, not being able to afford them, instead of like getting wild enhancements. But if that's the
Now,
case, then it is weird that like Blind Mag has like special super eyes and whatever.
well, now think of it this way, Jonathan. How much cooler would it have been if Blind Mag's eyes shot laser beams out of them? Boom.
Yeah, I get that you wish this was a completely different movie, Dan.
Dan
Well,
now wants us to be X-Men.
He had already said he wanted it to be a superhero movie, but without comic book panels.
Yes. Now I'm not saying that you can't say that I'm trying to make this a comic book movie. I'm just saying laser beams from the eyes could be cool.
Comic book panels don't make it dark and gritty, and that's what's in with comic book these days.
That's
What
very
what
true.
Dan likes anyway.
You got me.
And I guess the point with the organs not having much transhumanism, as Jonathan said, is because I think it's that cycle Jonathan was talking about earlier. It's about people being desperate enough to agree to these surgeries to therefore get the medicine and sort of that cycle to just get gene code paid. And if you give people augments that maybe make them a little bit stronger, a little bit whatever, there's the chance that they could maybe take over or do something better with their lives. The point is to just keep them in debt so that GeneCo keeps making money.
I think it's less that and more that the thing starts by saying there's an epidemic of organ failures. And so like they already have super high demand. They don't need to like make a better product to try to convince people to buy it.
Sure.
I'm going to be honest with you. After looking at the state of the city that they're in, I think I'd rather just die.
That's why Roddy killed his doctor. He's like, that's fine.
he did the doctor a service actually.
The doctor's family
coil.
The doctor's family decided not to press charges. They were like, actually, he's in a better place.
Yeah. Can you get us next, please? Thank you.
There's just street magicians running around the city, stealing Zydrate.
And just like random old people in like weird get-ups. This isn't a fun place to be in.
Shiloh and Chris Angel hitch a ride on a garbage truck, and then Shiloh jumps off and heads home. She walks into the house and runs upstairs to bed as her dad comes up too, but he immediately gets a call from Roddy to come to the GeneCo offices. So he goes there, and Roddy tells him the next job is to repossess Mags' eyes. But Nathan doesn't want to do it because Mag was Marnie's best friend. So Roddy and his children sing a song to guilt Nathan into doing it by reminding Nathan that he killed Marnie, as well as egg Nathan on to repossess from some poor schmuck right there. At the end, Nathan walks out telling Roddy to find someone else to do the job. Mag goes to Shiloh's house to see her and tell her that she is her godmother. Shiloh begrudgingly lets her in, and they talk about how they are both prisoners in their own lives, and Mag tries to convince Shiloh to live her life, and also shows off her hologram eyeballs.
Going back slightly to the times when the Repo Man takes the organs, I know technically they're supposed to just be talking and not singing. If this was like real, like in the real version, but just imagine if he actually did sing all the time. Your last moments on the earth is this crazy man with a knife running around singing at you before he cuts your organs out. I don't know if that's better or worse way to go out.
I think there's something to be said if your killer is showing that much glee. I think it becomes more terrifying.
Sure.
It's one of those things like Patton Oswalt mentions about dying in the apocalypse. It's one of those things you could talk to wherever you go after death. They're just like, oh, did he get you? What song did he sing?
Yeah.
Then Nathan comes home, and Mag says that Nathan told her that Shiloh died. He tries to usher Mag out of the house because of Shiloh's sickness. Shiloh tries to convince her dad to let Mag hide out in the house because she's in danger, but he doesn't listen and ushers Mag out of the house. Shiloh tells her dad that Mag might get her eyes repossessed, and he tells her not to worry about it, and then she sings a song about being a rebellious teen, and Joan Jett shows up to play guitar in fantasy of having a rock concert in Shiloh's bedroom. And then Nathan just slaps the shit out of her and knocks her out of her fantasy and out of consciousness.
His very own Sean Connery moment.
Yep.
Didn't this guy have Anthony Head? Didn't he have some like really bad problems in the past few years?
I don't know.
I have not heard anything about him since this movie, so I have no idea.
I'm thinking about the father from Seventh Heaven.
Oh yeah,
much different.
So
Well,
yes,
they were both on in the 90s, so
on the CW.
On the CW, yes. Yeah, he had some big issues, right?
Yes.
Some
That's
could
like putting
say.
it really mildly.
Yeah. I think it was just like a couple of like moving violations.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Unpaid parking tickets.
The law came down on him.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Hashtag
Roddy.
free that guy.
Meanwhile, Roddy is dealing with his own rebellious daughter as Amber shows up to complain about how she was maimed by her latest surgery and blames her dad for it. He says she's never going to sing now. And he tells her she's a disgrace to the family for changing her name from Largo to Sweet. And he sees what she looks like after her new surgery, and he relents and says he's going to have his doctors fix up her busted face. Those are my words, not his.
I
Amber
don't remember him being so crude.
Yeah. I would not do this version of Paris Hilton. That's what I'm saying.
You and me both, buddy. The one with her face hanging off, right?
Not yet.
Yeah, or would you do it with remorse?
I mean, yeah, maybe. Amber leaves and Roddy sings a song about how he's dying and he's going to make sure the kids regret for being so terrible by leaving all his wealth to Shiloh. So Roddy calls Shiloh on her smartwatch to tell her to meet him tonight, but Nathan hears it as he's attending to her bedside, so he sets out to stop Roddy from taking Shiloh from him. Nathan heads to his laboratory where he is accosted by some assassins whom he dispatches with immediately. Meanwhile, Roddy sends a message to Shiloh via a giant video screen outside her window to meet him at the opera for her cure, and he has sent a car for her. She gets in the limo and leaves. Nathan, seeing that she has left, resolves to keep Shiloh safe by heading to the opera as the Repo Man. Then everyone has a song about going to the opera. Amber is getting some Zydrate, Mag is preparing her final song, Nathan is killing the security that is trying to bring in the Repo Man. Then the opera starts, and it looks like a Panic at the Disco music video, but less catchy. Models in lingerie dance around as a rock band plays, and the audience sings the praises literally of Jeanco and how Jeanco has helped their lives. And one woman just shows her tits.
I missed that part. Are you saying there's boobs in this?
Yeah,
there is. Yeah.
Oh, damn. I missed it. And I'm not going to go back and rewatch it.
and
I was going to say, I think she's also credited as just single mother.
Yes.
So you could look it up, I guess.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that.
Just Google single moms tits out.
Safe
They'll
search
know.
off.
They'll know what you're talking about.
380 million search find. Yeah, I missed it.
And she's in my area too.
Yeah, they all want to see me? Weird.
And don't do it in incognito, you coward.
I have nothing to hide. All right. Everyone knows who I am.
I mean, this is a super horny movie, and we didn't pick this time. So,
is it?
Thanks, Jonathan. It's pretty horny.
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to say. You don't see a lot of nudity. I didn't even know there was any nudity in it.
I think it gets to horny places.
I would not call this a super horny movie, but there are
horny
some
moments,
scenes, I guess. Yeah.
Jonathan, I think you just found the new name for the podcast. They called this a super horny movie.
Okay, sure.
That's our other podcast, our Patreon episodes.
Yeah, you got to pay extra for that.
And the Largos show up as well, with Roddy basically being treated as a savior of the world. Shiloh gets to the opera and gets brought into a room that plays a film. There's Roddy telling her that she is so close to the cure, but the only thing keeping her from it is the Repo Man, and that she will have to kill the Repo Man in order to get the cure. And then Amber starts to sing at the opera, and her face falls off. Shiloh remains locked in a room with a recording of Roddy telling her she needs to bring him the Repo Man in order to get the cure. Then Blind Mag performs an opera as Roddy watches along from the side of the stage. And she ends it by singing that they could take her eyes because she'd rather be blind than continue to be an indentured servant. So she cuts her own eyes out while suspended above the stage. And Roddy cuts the rope, keeping her suspended, and she falls onto and is impaled by a wrought iron fence. And she did.
This is super gory.
Yeah.
I did not remember it being that graphic.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I liked it.
Yeah.
The curtain falls on the performance, and Roddy tries to assure the audience that more is coming for the show. And Nathan, as Repo Man, winds up in the room with Shiloh, who hits him in the head with a shovel. He takes his helmet off, and she realizes that he is the Repo Man. So now she has lost all trust in her father, so she tells him he is dead to her and that Roddy has replaced him in her eyes. So she storms off, and he resolves that if her dad is dead, then he will continue his life as the Repo Man. So he follows after her towards the stage, and he kills some security guards before Luigi slashes him in the leg, and he falls, bleeding all over the stage. Roddy has the curtains pulled open so the crowd can watch the rest of the confrontation. Roddy tells Shiloh that Nathan killed her mother, and then drops the bomb that she's not really sick. Nathan has been poisoning her medicine to keep her sick. Then Roddy tells her that all she has to do is kill her father, and she will become the heir of Gene Co. So Luigi and Pavi freak out about hearing this, and they rush the stage to confront their father, and he basically calls them worthless. So
This
Roddy...
would have been the point where, with all of Luigi's anger issues, I thought as soon as he found out that he hadn't signed that letter yet, that he would have just killed his father.
That's what I thought too. I was thinking like, man, this is probably not the best time to tell these guys that you're planning to not let them be the heirs. I think it was bad. Yeah. I mean, that would be very, this is if a lot of operas have patricide in there, it would fit right in.
Well, that kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones, right? The Boltons, right? Doesn't the head of the House Bolton tell Ramsay, like, yeah, you're this newborn, he's taking over the family. Your son's a psycho. Why would you tell him that?
Mm-hmm.
You know he's going to kill you. You just sealed your fate.
Roose? Is that his name?
Yes.
Roose Bolton?
Yeah, Roose Bolton. Yep. Thank you.
And I won't say 100% that I saw the twist coming, but as it got more and more desperate about her taking her medicine, and then all that stuff, and trapping her in the house, I was like, what if he's like just lying to her? I didn't think he was like actually poisoning her, but just doing like a gaslighting sort of brainwash situation sort of thing.
Right. Like Rapunzel. Or like Tangled, right?
Yeah.
Mother Gothel.
Like, how cool would it have been if hold on.
I love. So you've said that twice before in this movie, there in this podcast, and the last two times it's been, how cool would it be if this movie was closer to an action movie? So I'm curious.
This is different. All right. So how cool would it have been if the father, the Repo Man, is feeding the Shiloh these pills, because without the pills, she is a very strong psychic. Boom. There you go.
Yeah.
I think we can just cut out the sigh from Jonathan.
Well, listen, excuse me for trying to make this movie better.
Okay.
You see, there's no way for me to come away from this podcast without Jonathan hating. It was just,
that's so different. I don't think you could compare the two movies. What you're describing.
Well, listen, I think you do that. Listen, keep the singing. I'm all for the singing. Just throw some laser beams in there, some psychics.
Okay.
I think you got yourself a movie there.
So Roddy gives Shiloh a gun to shoot Nathan, but she doesn't want to shoot her dad. Then the lights go out. Roddy grabs the gun out of Shiloh's hands and shoots Nathan. Roddy then tells all his children off one last time before he collapses and dies. Shiloh comforts Nathan in his final moments, both of them telling each other that they love them, and then he dies. And then Shiloh sings a song about finally being free and leaves the opera. Then Chris Angel, Mind Freak, does a reprise of one of his songs, and then we have a mid-credit sequence of the Largo children taking over Jinko, with Amber selling off her face as a publicity stunt only to be purchased by her brother Pavi. And that's the end of Repo, the Genetic Opera. It's certainly interesting. I'll say that.
Yeah, I do give it credit for that. It is very unique.
Yeah, it definitely feels like one person's vision. So
yeah,
I think there's something to be said to that.
Yeah, I feel like this is a really good time capsule of like whatever subculture this is, like goth scene stuff, I guess, of this time. Like I feel like a few years after this, that culture is very different, and a few years before this, it's also like very different.
Yeah, I mean, this was the Bush administration, man. People were feeling things. I don't know.
Well, we've discussed on this podcast that the 2000s were just like filled with dreck.
A
It was
hellscape.
music. It was a hellscape for music and movies.
Yeah. I don't know if this is I don't know if this is the reason why this movie is the way it is because it's the hellscape of the 2000s, but I get what you're saying, Jonathan, about like subcultures went in different directions and they usually do it pretty quickly.
Like if this movie, and you brought up an interesting point, if this movie were made earlier, who would you like? Which band or which musician would you like to have kind of seen helmet with the at least musically?
I guess it depends on when we're talking.
Like if we're saying 80s.
No, 80s? The Cure.
Yeah, The Cure. Interesting.
Yeah.
Robert Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, this seems somewhat similar to The Crow.
Yeah, I feel like if people, people that would consider this like one of their favorite movies would be like big Cure fans.
Interesting.
Who would you pick?
From the 80s. And we're saying we want to kind of keep it in the same genre, right?
I would say so.
I don't know. I didn't have an answer for that. I was hoping you guys would just really.
I have an answer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
You guys mentioned Queensryche before the podcast, and this does kind of remind me of Operation Mindcrime.
Okay, I'll
That's
take
not
your word
bad.
for it.
Or do you?
Operation Mindcrime is one of Queensryche albums that is about that is a rock opera, and it's about a guy who's like drug addicts and being disillusioned with society and stuff like that.
There you go.
Well, what about like super heavy, like a Megadeth kind of thing, or Pantera? Or is that that's too heavy?
I was going to make a Metallica joke, Dan, and then you just went in sort of the same direction.
Yeah, I mean, how The Cure though? That's an interesting one. I would never have thought of The Cure.
Yeah, the only other closer one for me, and maybe I'm thinking slightly off, would have been maybe a Judas Priest or something. But yeah, but The Cure is too perfect.
Yeah, he always do Marilyn Manson. He'd be a good gravedigger.
Yeah.
There was one song that did kind of sound like a Marilyn Manson song. I forget which one it was though. I didn't really care for it, but it had the same kind of feel to it.
For some reason, there was one song, or maybe it was spread out. Maybe they did the same rhythm multiple times. But in my head, I just kept singing "Jizz in My Pants."
What?
That that part, like there's when they're trying to sing talk.
Is it because you saw Goth Paris Hilton?
I don't know. That's a Lonely Island.
Did that actually happen to you, Mark? Did that happen?
I have no idea what you're thinking of.
No,
I know what you're talking about, Mark.
I know what song you mean, but I don't know what part of this movie you think sounds.
I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could pinpoint it, but at times I started singing that in my head along with the dialogue.
Can someone explain to me what that song is? What is it from?
Jizz in My Pants?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Andy Samberg on Saturday Night Live. It's a Lonely Island song.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I was not aware of that.
Oh, there you go. Look it up. Yeah, that's it. That's it for Repo the Genetic Opera. We talked it to death. Jonathan, you have any last words or anything you want to plug? You got a new podcast coming out?
Nope.
Can we talk about Queensryche?
No.
Okay.
I do not want to be
Queensryche Hour with Jonathan.
So I have no plugs.
Okay, good. Yeah. Do not look for Jonathan, he says, specifically. Forget he was on this podcast. All right, yeah, so check us out. Good.
Real quick, I think it's interesting. Jonathan is like our first listener guest.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone else kind of has their own thing going on. Like a pot. Not saying you don't have anything going on in your life, Jonathan. You're a very interesting man.
Okay. We went this whole time of you not liking this movie that I like, and it just now you make it personal.
No, hey, I'm giving you credit where credit's due, man. You're an interesting guy. I fully believe that.
Okay.
But see, because we've been on the Game Vault pod, and that's like your territory. Like those are your stomping grounds. Now you're in our territory. You're in the movie territory.
Okay.
So you kind of have to bobbing and weaving. Yeah, you can't come in on this, dude.
Okay.
This is why Dan's going to attack like a cornered cat.
That's right. Yeah. Listen, I can't be held responsible for my actions.
All right. Well, I apologize for Dan on this one, Jonathan. No, but that's it. So check us out wherever socials, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Look out for the poll on Twitter next week for our prom/graduation stuff, and we're gonna get out of here. So yeah, you found us. You know where to find us. Go fuck yourselves.
You should probably do you tell people to rate and review the podcast?
I used to do that too.
He just tells them now to go fuck themselves. It seems to be working. Our numbers are up.
Yeah.
That's a very bold strategy, Ant, but I like it.
I know the degenerates that listen to this. They love to be hated.
Yeah, I think you just made some people's days with that.
There you go. Repo the Genetic Opera is directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. So for Dan Aquino, Mark Myers, and our good friend Jonathan, this is Anthony Delvecchio telling Darren Lynn Bousman, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you? Thanks for listening to They Called Us a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Called Us a Movie.